who is a NASA secretariat in the diaspora, also representing diaspora interests. Many thanks for joining us on Weekend at 1.
Thank you for having me.
Right, so a lot of action has been taking place today, which also marks the official campaign period in the country. Let's begin with the fact that we had 4 presidential aspirants submitting their nomination papers today. 3 of them have already been cleared, among them Raila Odinga. Your thoughts, first of all, on this 4th stab that he is attempting?
Well, it's unfortunate that he has to even try a 4th time. In my opinion, if things were free and fair, he should have been president back in 2007. There should have been no this Nusumukate thing that we had. But this time, we are trying to make sure that we cross all our T's, dot all our I's, to make sure that all these irregularities that were there in the past, that we make sure that they don't happen again.
How are you going to do that this time?
Well, I can't talk about all our strategies, obviously, because we do have an opposition. We do have, rather, not an opposition, a sitting government, to believe. So I can't go into the details of what our strategies are. However, there are some that are very obvious. For instance, one of our biggest strategies from diaspora, which, by the way, is the biggest constituent, if you ask me, we have over $1 billion in remittances every year. So this is like one of the foreign exchange earners. So much as we cannot vote as a diaspora constituent, but we can participate and actively. So one of our strategies is to adopt a poll. And when we spoke to now our presidential candidate, Raila Amolo Odinga, when he was last in the United States, he had expressed that he would love it if we could all adopt a poll. So most of us are already here. A lot of us are already here from diaspora, and we are continuing to recruit people from diaspora. And by adopting a poll, that means that some of the irregularities that we saw in the last elections, where polls were abandoned because some people were paid money. Now, I guess if I'm sitting in Changamwe, it'll be very hard for me to abandon a poll.
But I mean, what does it mean to adopt a poll, especially from the diaspora vote?
Well, we'll be here. So that means if somebody tells us this is the battleground, these are polls. There are some polls that are known for irregularities. So those polls that we've identified that are going to be difficult and have a lot of irregularities, we're going to be sitting there. We're going to be staffing those polls. So as opposed to just giving it to anybody, we from diaspora are going to sit, roll our sleeves, staff the poll, sit there from morning to evening to ensure that our votes count. And we are definitely not abandoning
Absolutely.
those polls.
But let's go back to, you just mentioned, because you cannot vote as the diaspora, but is there anything in the works to ensure that that vote is factored in? Because you describe yourselves as the biggest constituent, so to speak.
Well, I didn't say the biggest, but it is a large constituent. You cannot ignore it. If you're thinking about Kenyans in Dubai, in Europe, in the UK, in Canada, in the United States, that's a huge constituency. If we could vote, it would be ideal. But considering the infrastructure that barely existed right now, already we had a lot of irregularities in the last elections. I can't even imagine if they decided that diasporans would vote. For all we care, they'd say 20 million or whatever, or 2 million voted, and yet, maybe that wasn't. So it wasn't really, we are not really ready. I believe the country wasn't really ready technologically to have a free and fair election, especially if it was going to be overseen by people that we consider, partisan. So I believe that maybe the next elections, Kenya should be ready. Other countries have done it. So why not?
Why not? Do it. But of course, I mean, being part of the NASA secretariat, we've seen this before. Raila Odinga running against Uhuru Kenyatta, and it didn't turn out very well. What is NASA going to do different this time?
Well, this time around, we want to be involved, especially, I'm talking particularly from the point of view of diaspora, simply because in the past we tend to complain a lot, but especially coming from the States, we have to also take a leaf from where we've lived for a while, where Kennedy said, ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. So this is what we can do for Kenya. So as opposed to complaining all the time, why isn't the secretariat organized? Why isn't the campaign as organized? We have decided to come and help this campaign be organized. So this time it's different. The diaspora are participating. We are in the secretariat. We are active. We are liaising. Like now I'm coordinating with the diasporans, the diaspora, NASA diaspora in the United States. We have different chapters. We have New Jersey. We have Maryland. We have Washington, D.C., which is Washington Metro, New York, Pennsylvania, Minnesota, which is a huge following. We also have Texas. So all these chapters, we have all these leaders, we've come together. And so I'm representing all these chapters. We have different movements like, Kenya Patriotic Front. So we are gathering funds and we are using our money, paying our flights, coming here. We are not asking to be paid.
Right. And just before we wind up, maybe just to draw some comparison from the United States in the manner in which this verification of candidates is being done. Is it a satisfactory process being done in the country in terms that the electorate would understand what the IEBC has been looking for and what criteria they use to clear these candidates?
Well, when you're saying criteria to clear which candidates?
The presidential candidates that we've seen today.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, and I'm here talking supporting the presidential candidate of my choice, which is Raila Amolo Odinga. I don't understand. There's no process for him to clear. He's veteran and he's through. So for me, that's a non-question at this point. So for us, our goal is to make sure that Raila Amolo Odinga, who's fought so hard for all Kenyans suffered, and yet he still has such a clean heart, willing to give back. This is the candidate that we need to support. Listen, the way I look at it, Kenya for 54 years, right? We have had a same style of leadership. I would call it a style, okay? And if I factor in the President Moi, 15 years as vice president, President Kibaki, 10 years, you know, I come up to 84 years of doing the same thing. As they say, if you're doing the same thing over and over again and you're not getting results, it's about time to do it differently.
All right, Bella. And many would argue that Raila Odinga has also been part of that. That is a conversation for another day. Bella Akinyi is a NASA secretariat, a part of the NASA secretariat representing diaspora interests. Many thanks for joining us on a Weekend at 1. Now,